Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us for another part of our Career Booster webinar series where we're going to be talking about career planning and management and getting from A to Z. So we've got our team of career services personnel, that's such a formal word, but our career services team is here joining us this afternoon, and we're going to talk about some different ways that you can identify your career goals and the skills and competencies that you need to achieve them. We're going to understand the work experience necessary to move to the next professional level. Then we're going to talk about some of those critical relationships that are going to be essential to propelling your career success. And then finally, we're going to discuss ways to connect the education that a lot of you are in the process of or just recently received and how you can connect that to your professional development. My name is Jeremy Bell, Career Services Manager. I've been here since 2009, and I oversee the operations of career services, and my personal goal is to make sure that all of our students and alumni are fully prepared for the career planning challenges that you face upon graduation from Grantham. And I want to introduce you to my team, and we'll start with Raylene.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raylene. I'm a Career Services Coordinator at Grantham. I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and just recently completed my programming certificate with Grantham. I assist students in the business school and the College of Art and Sciences, and my role in this presentation is to cover how education affects your career and life goals.
I'm Doug Demler. I'm a Career Services Coordinator, and I'm over the College of Engineering and Computer Science, also Nursing and Allied Health.
Okay, so let's get started. We're going to start with a quick poll of the folks who are listening today. So if you're listening online or on your smartphone device, you should have the opportunity to hit the poll tab here. And our first question today, I just want to know if you have, at this point, developed a goal for your career. So we'll take just a minute or so and get some responses here, but it's just a yes or no, and we just want to know if you've set any goals for yourself.
All right, we're starting to see those roll in. We've got 83% responding yes and 14% no. Looks like we're getting pretty close to having everyone's vote tallied. So we have 75% saying yes and 25% saying no.
Okay, and those are good numbers. And also joining us today is Karen Sampson. She's our Director of Talent Development and Career Services. She's helping us out today. Thanks, Karen.
Just producing today.
She's our Raj. So this is good information. So our overall goal, is to have a goal, and so especially when it comes to our career. So I'm just going to ask one more question before we dig in here, and I want to know, of the folks who said yes to setting a career goal for yourself, my next question would be, have you written that goal down? So take just another minute and respond and let us know what you think. Okay. Just a little over half and half.
All right, we're up to 63% say yes, and 38% have not done that yet.
Okay, good. And as we'll talk about this today, one of the biggest keys to setting goals for yourself is to write it down. It's just another one of those great ways to hold ourselves accountable to the goals that we set for ourselves. So let's begin. So what we want to do whenever you're setting goals, and something else I want to refer to you is also within the GoToWebinar software is a handout that you can follow along as we present this information today. That's going to have some other tools for you in your goal planning needs. So I want to start with brainstorming, which is everything you want to accomplish, and then to decide which goals are most important to you and most aligned to your value systems. It's a good idea to document those so you can hold yourself accountable and track your progress throughout the years. It's a good point to be very specific when you're brainstorming, as you'll want to have a clear understanding of what success looks like for you specifically. Once you have a broad understanding, begin to break those goals into smaller objectives that will contribute to your step-by-step plan. So what we're going to do is walk through this process for the presentation. And on the first page of the handout, I'll give you just a couple minutes here to brainstorm. So when you're doing this, think about the things that you want. What do you want to do? What do you want to learn? What do you want to have? Or just overall, what do you want to be? And in those areas there, you want to think of 4 main things. Think about your career, your education, your family, and even your finances. So when you're setting goals, think of those 4 elements and what you want to accomplish. So I'll give you just a couple minutes and then we'll continue.
As you're kind of, pulling those things down, consider things like, at what point would I be able to travel within my career? Is my family going to, make a difference in the type of roles that I can take on in the future? How old do I want to be when I retire? That might be an area for you to consider. How important are finances to your overall goal? And, then that can help you to shape out those long-term career goals.
Right, because they all tie together in the end. Mm-hmm. So now that we understand some of those general guidelines for goal setting, let's take our own advice and write them down. So we've already kind of started that with the brainstorming within the handout here. So this worksheet that we've provided here is designed to help you with those goals, to develop an ideal future and plan some activities and strategies for meeting those goals. So as you complete this exercise, it's important to consider that your goals are not going to be set in stone. They may change, and that is to be expected. Lots of life events,
family,
family,
mm-hmm.
all those areas that Karen mentioned before, your career, your education, your family, and your finances, they're all subject to change. So we want to, act accordingly, but the first step is to have a good foundation for where we want to be. So your career plan is going to be alive, meaning that, you will change your path multiple times throughout your career, so be prepared. All right, so let's talk about our long and short-term goals. So your long-term goals represent a series of accomplished short-term goals that will lead to your ultimate success. Short-term goals should be defined in such a way that they take 6 to 12 months to complete. You will want to define these goals in a manner that allows you to quickly see results and changes. So looking at your handout, we've kind of developed this to where you can kind of do this. You can start with those long-term goals and break them down into small bites to see your progress. So that first section there, or the second section after brainstorming, you have a section to think about those long-term goals. And you can be concise, they don't have to be super specific, but just start thinking in your head, what do you want to see in the long term? You'll want to define these in a manner that allow you to see results and changes, or quickly see those results and changes. Break down your long-term goals, again, into those small bites, and remember that for example, to give you an example here, so if you're a nurse and you're thinking of becoming a nurse, you want to think of that in the long term. So my long-term goal is to become a nurse. In the short term, I'm going to have to finish a nursing degree program. I'm going to have to get some education. So that's that small bite that you have to complete in order to see that long-term success. So as you begin to develop your short-term goals, consider the gaps in skills or experience you have that may prevent you from reaching your long-term goals, and keep in mind the resources you have available at the university, with your current employer, or in your personal community. Long-term goals should combine your career, education, and personal endeavors. So let's look at the nuts and bolts of creating a development plan. All right. So for the purpose of this exercise here, we're going to look at becoming a project manager within your current organization. So when we think of those short-term goals, think about all the little elements that you'll need to do, or those small bites, in order to achieve that long-term success. So in this example here, it could be things just as simple as learning more about that position. So if you want to be a project manager, what does that mean? Think about the skills that are going to be necessary in order to achieve that goal. And then think of the activities. For example here, what kind of projects can you be in charge of that might help you achieve this goal? And then think about your education. What what type of education, what degrees, what certifications do project managers typically have to determine your plan? All right, so let's talk about action. What are some action items that we're going to assign for ourselves in relation to those short-term goals? So, to just briefly, when you think of learning more about the position itself, take time to meet with people within your organization or people in your circle that are already doing the type of work that you want to do. They're going to be a great resource to find out more about that position, as well as the skills. And we'll dig into that a little bit later here, but if you want to do a specific job, it's very important to find out what those skills are. And once you find them out, seek them out. So if there are online courses that you can take or any type of training that you can do, take advantage of those. And then when it comes to those projects, talk to your boss. Talk to people that you work with. Try to find ways that you can contribute to the organization's needs while at the same time achieving the goals that you've set for yourself, and then make a plan of action to finish those classes that you need to finish your education. And then another key point to setting an action plan or goal for yourself is to think about what kind of barriers or obstacles may come into play when it comes to meeting those goals. So as this plan goes along, when you want to have those meetings, think about scheduling. You may have very busy work days. The folks that you want to meet with may have very busy schedules. So that might mean making some adjustments, maybe before work, after work, over lunch. Find the best ways possible to make those connections happen, but remember, you have to make some adjustments there.
I think it's a really great point to look at the barriers you may encounter, because nothing ever seems, no plan ever goes nearly as smoothly as we envision it in our mind. So I think that's really good advice to look at ways that you anticipate those obstacles ahead of time.
Yeah. All right, and then another good important thing to remember is understanding your resources. So, and when you work within a company, or even if you're not actively within a role, there's plenty of resources that you can use to be successful. So again, when you're thinking of having those conversations, think about the people within your organization that you can make connections with. It could be your boss, it could be your peers, it could be, again, the project managers that are already doing the work that you're doing. Those are good ways to start building those resources that'll, again, tie to the skills that you need. Think of those support networks. If you're lucky enough, you're going to have those people that you report to on your team that are going to be supportive of your goals if they know what those goals are. And that could be your professional sources. It could also be your personal sources. Use all of those sources wisely.
Good advice. Thanks.
And then the final thing here with developing the action plan, and there's also templates within the handout as well to help you do this, just to remind you, but another key thing to remember when developing your action plan is to have a timeline. We don't want to keep these kind of open-ended, or else we may never achieve them. So give yourself some goals, give yourself some deadlines. And for example, so if you say, I want to learn more about the project manager position, give yourself a month. Make sure it's reasonable enough for you. So if you give yourself a month, so today's May 18th, by June 18th, I want to know everything I need to know about this position, and so on and so forth. But the key is to give yourself a deadline so that you're meeting the goals when you want to meet them, and you're also holding yourself accountable.
Yeah. The faster you achieve those short-term goals, the closer you are to that long-term vision you've had for yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a really good point. The short-term goals that you're looking at here, they should be progressive, getting you to that long-term goal, and build upon each other to make sure that you're getting to that end goal that you have in mind.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Awesome. So what we're going to be talking about today is what we refer to as the 70-20-10 model. And it's pretty straightforward. So once you've brainstormed, you've come up with your long-term goal, you know what you want to be, you know when you want to do it, think about all the elements that it's going to take to reach that goal. And there's three key things to consider. So the biggest thing to consider is the experience. So when we refer back to the person who wants to become a project manager, it's going to be as simple as what you do in order to prepare you for that in the role that you already have. So are there ways that you can build these goals into the job that you're doing? Can you build projects on your team? Can you
jump in on a cross-functional project.
Yeah, can you work with other teams? You know, it's one of those things, give you an example. Our team, we work with many different departments. So in a lot of organizations, there's many ways for you to partner with other individuals within the building. But try to find other ways to increase your responsibilities in your role. Have those conversations with your supervisor and let them know this is what you want to do, and see if that can build upon the work you're doing to develop that experience that you need. The 20% is going to be learning from others, and it's going to be those relationships that you build, both on an informal and formal level. And that could be anything from the conversation you have during midterm and end of the year reviews, your coaching sessions, learning opportunities, as I mentioned before. What can you learn online in your spare time? Those networking opportunities. Who can you meet within the industries that you want to work in, that you can build those relationships and gain more of that information that you're seeking. But really the key there is just how much can you learn from those around you, using those resources that are closest to you to be successful. And then the final part of this model, the last part, is the 10%, which is probably the more easier, I would say, of these models, and that's the education. So when you think of that end goal, or what that job title is, or industry that you want to work in, what's the education that folks have that are doing what you want to do? What kind of degrees do they have? What kind of certifications do they have? What kind of continuing education opportunities have they taken advantage of? Once you learn those, you have a clear idea of what kind of education that you need in order to be successful. So we're going to dig into this, and I'm going to turn it over to Raylene, who's going to talk about education.
Hello, everyone. So the initial motivation to go directly into higher education is evident. We see in today's job market that there's a lot of competition, and if you have a degree, you have a potential for increased earning. And actually, Pew Research and the Bureau of Labor Statistics project that a person with a bachelor's degree can earn up to 66% more in their lifetime than someone without a higher education. So the financial benefit of education is definitely evident. But it's important that you have an end goal in mind before you dive into that educational program. Planning ahead and using the processes we're going to talk about today will allow you to narrow down the degree and educational options that are available to you that will match that target or that end goal or position. So, with that end goal or ideal position in mind, education only accounts for 10% of your success. So how can you strategically plan your education to optimize the return on your investment? So we're going to look into some strategies you can use to make sure that the education you're receiving and that you're pursuing actually matches what you're wanting to do. So this is a specific job position, and we're going to dive into this and see, identify those areas for growth. But first, you'll need to take an internal assessment to determine your key skills and knowledge that you have that the job posting is asking for. Do not waste time by blindly reaching for knowledge or education that may not be useful to that end goal that you have. So let's look at this job description. One of the first things that you'll do is identify the things you know how to do. So that's showcased here in red: experience with VIP, ProPass, and the degree. So say you already have those under your belt. You have those under your belt, so you don't need to work on those, but you know that you're good in those areas. Then let's look at areas that you need to work on. So this example is agile processes, circled in blue. You know that you need to work on this, so go ahead and circle that so that you can have that ready for your development plan. Another thing that you can work on is looking at terms that you may not understand. So the process of obtaining a security clearance. Maybe you don't know what a security clearance is, or the process for obtaining one. Circle that as something that you can learn on to increase your knowledge. The worksheet that's available here for you actually has a section under Step into Your Ideal Job. that can help you identify some of these key knowledge pieces in a specific job posting and your areas for improvement. So we've talked about the importance of education, and we have identified areas for growth. Now we need to look at where you can receive this knowledge. So there's many different ways for you to gain knowledge and education. Education does not have to be formal, and there's so many ways that you can, resources that you can use with the internet and the free tutorials that are available to you. So don't get stuck in that mindset that it has to be in a formal classroom setting in order to increase your knowledge. You can do any of the things listed here: YouTube tutorials, webinars, podcasts. These are all things that can teach you something. So keep those in mind when you're looking at things that you need to improve in yourself. You can subscribe to blogs. This is nice because they will continuously email you and keep you on track to your goals. They may email you too much, but that will be a little reminder, hey, I haven't actually looked at this tutorial yet, and it will remind you to go back to their site. Go to company trainings, capitalize on mentor relationships, and definitely use the free tutorials that are available for you. If going through this process you recognize a need for formal education, please look at our Grantham degrees and opportunities that we have for you, and know that you can take a class outside of a specific degree program. That's an option for you as well. So this next portion here is going to be on professional certification, but before we dive in, we're going to take another poll. Do you need a professional certification for your desired position? Go ahead and type in that box there, yes, no, or I don't know.
Okay, so far we've got a couple folks saying yes, I do. One couple say no.
The good thing is no one's saying I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's good news. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so we're split. We've got a 56% say yes and 44% say no.
Well, that's good that our population knows whether they need or do not need a certificate. But we're still going to talk about what a certification is because we receive this question a lot. So certifications are awarded by professional institutions. These are most likely, almost all of the time, outside of an educational setting. The certification that you receive is partnered with your degree and your experience to validate your qualifications in a specific industry. Do not confuse an educational certificate with certification. There's a big difference there. An educational certificate is awarded for completion of coursework, whereas a professional certification qualifies you to work in that specific industry and normally is needed for that position. Sometimes it's not, but a lot of times it is. And then there's also a licensure, which is the next step, and that's being licensed by the state or a government agency to work in a specific field or in that specific state.
So some examples of that would be, like you mentioned before, completing your Intro to Programming certificate. Some other certifications would be, like if you're in HR, you could get certified by the Society for Human Resource Management, which talks about the ability to have all those subject matter expertise areas to work in those fields. And then, licensures would be, I'm a licensed registered nurse, or licensed, you're licensed to do specific work. So there are specific differences between the three.
Yeah, and it's really important to recognize that a lot of the professional certifications that are out there actually require you to have educational studies. So that's where a degree comes in to, that's where the degree pairs with that professional certification. But it is different. Certificate and certifications are different.
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that even if a certification is not required, in a lot of cases it's preferred.
Yes.
And so that can be one of those pieces that kind of gives you a little bit of edge over your competition.
Well, yeah, and education is really saturated in the market right now. You see, like in today's market, there are so many educated candidates, people that have their degrees. So when you have that professional certification, it's like a step above those other people, you know, because it's common to have your bachelor's degree in today's market. So you may be asking, why should I become certified? These are reasons why. Because you become a more marketable candidate if you have one, and it may be required for certain positions that you're looking into.
I think the main thing to look at is look at your particular field and
Yeah.
know those, whether you need a certification, you can get it through education, or you need a licensure. So make sure you look at that, and that'll be the best thing for you.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's important to know the end goal. You know, this whole presentation is about that because certifications and even degree programs are expensive. So you want to make sure that the money and the time that you're spending actually relates to what you're wanting to do in the future.
Research is key. I think a lot of the things that we talk about in these webinars and in conversations is research. Know your industry, know the job, know what's required, and that's going to take some research.
Yeah, and even the job you want to have 10 years from now, so that you know that you're building your certifications or building your education or experience toward that is important.
That was everything that I've had. We talked about education as 10% of the goal, strategies to identify those weaknesses, where you can gain knowledge, and then this certification piece. I'm going to go ahead and transfer it to Jeremy, who will now talk about learning from others.
Thanks, Raylene. As you are beginning to develop a plan of action, you'll want to consider, who you can learn from. Your goals will dictate which of the activities on this screen here will be the most valuable for your situation. For example, if your goal is to move into a lateral position in another department, job shadowing may be a very effective way to learn about the job duties of one of the other positions and determine the skills that you may need in order to be successful. However, if your goal is to move into an executive leadership role, you may need to consider investing in some coaching or maybe a 360 feedback review program. Most individuals will benefit from developing mentoring relationships, either formally or informally. In fact, most of us already have informal mentors in our lives, and this could be, your coworker, your boss, your parents.
Even,
yeah, parents are good for that. Or just people that you know in your circle that are doing the kind of work or that you can learn from. So it's good to take advantage of those if they're willing to mentor you. Think of the individuals in your current network, again, such as your coworkers, who can share their expertise and provide you with some feedback. These individuals can generally offer you advice and act as a sounding board. Networking, both internal and external to your organization, can provide nearly every person some type of benefit. Internal networking offers exposure to people who make staffing decisions or people who could take on a mentoring role in the future. Networking with these individuals in your office is also easier than networking externally because you already have an existing relationship. This is not to discount the value of external networking, which can provide individuals with access to unpublished career opportunities, which is always good, career development events, and more. And just remember, it's not what you know, it is who you know. A great way to meet people and learn things is to join professional associations. As I mentioned briefly with Sherm before, just about every profession or association has some type of, career or profession has an association attached to it. And there are some listed in the handout that we have on the last page. So definitely refer to that. And with those, they generally have national, state, regional chapters that are available to join, and if you are a student or recent graduate, they usually have discounted rates for students as well. But even with those student memberships, you're going to get access to pretty much most, if not all, of the same information with a lot of those professional memberships. So definitely take advantage.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, too, that those professional associations, in many cases, are also the ones that provide professional certification. So joining those associations can help you with that education piece as well because, like, for example, like Jeremy was talking about SHRM, you can join, and then typically the local chapters, events, and educational offerings are free, and that is, something that you should definitely take advantage of.
And some of the things that SHRM, I know SHRM does here in this region that they have a lot of study sessions.
Yeah. Book clubs.
Book clubs. So because there is a lot to learn, I can tell you, just from my own personal experience in career coaching training, is there's a lot to learn, and you can use those resources, to make it a little bit easier. So definitely take advantage.
And if you're still a student, they have a lot of great student rates.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rates are.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to give an example, I think our professional rate for the Society for Human Resource Management is, just for our local chapter, is $100 a year versus $25 for students. So, that's definitely, take advantage of that student discount rate while you can.
Discounts are good.
Yes.
So we're gonna. So Doug, can you tell us about the experience that we need?
You bet. This is the experience portion, and I love this part because we're going to break this down and your experiences, and whether you have a lot or a little. But let's start off. Do you have the experience needed? I call this a reality check. Even though you may have educational credentials or you're seeking the educational credentials, you may need to evaluate the level of experience necessary to reach your goals. The first step is to align your goals with the job postings. Pay attention to the required section of the job postings. Job postings, man, every time I look at one, it seems to be different. So they can vary wildly regarding the number of years and experience that they require. Let's walk through a few examples I'm going to talk to you about. But keep in mind these are all approximate because, like I said, everyone's different. So an entry level or recent graduates will typically be 0 to 2 years of experience. Mid-career positions will be 2 to 4 years experience in a particular field or profession. Supervisory or managerial positions are generally 4 to 8 years prior experience of supervising staff or programs or even projects. As we move into senior executive positions, it could be 8 to even 15 years of related experience. Again, that can vary. If you do not have the requirements listed in a job posting, you want to go out and achieve those requirements or close to those requirements, or else there's a good chance you won't get the job. So we're at this age-old question that I always like to ask: how do you get that experience? A way to gain experience is to ask for assignments at work that will provide hands-on experience that you're lacking. The bulk of the learning should come from projects that you face on the job. Focus on volunteering for new projects that will broaden your scope in your particular role. For example, if you have a business degree or a business management degree but no management experience, you can volunteer as a director of events in a professional association, as we mentioned before. Take the opportunity to ask for new responsibilities from your supervisor or to help out a teammate or coworker on projects. This not only gains new skills, but it demonstrates your leadership skills and your ability to be proactive. Don't wait for your supervisor to come to you. Chances are, when you ask your supervisor, as long as it's related material, they're going to probably give it to you. If not, ask again. I guarantee they're going to give it to you, especially if it relates to the company or the department at hand. And chances are you're going to love that new responsibility and you're going to dive into it.
Yeah, I can't think of any manager that I've ever met that has enough resources or enough budget or enough, people to solve the challenges that they face on a day-to-day basis. So there's kind of a double benefit that you have the opportunity to really showcase what you can do, and you're gaining the skills that are leading you towards your ultimate goal. So I think those are, win-win for everybody.
Yeah, so let's say you're working at one job and you're seeking a different career altogether. It might be in your degree program, and you're totally in a different area. One way to do that is volunteer for positions in your community, or as we said, professional associations. That will help you gain your foot in the door and to get valuable experience. And this is a good one if you're working with a company already. Start with fun stuff like extracurricular activities. If there's a softball team or a speaking club or a leadership club, even if it's outside of your organization, start looking for those. Go for anything that will expand your decision-making authority. Seek information and ask questions. This is always good. Let's say your company is hiring in a particular area. ask why they're hiring in that particular area. I guarantee you they'll always tell you why. Then you can see the company's vision and come back and say, and start doing some research and know where that company's going to go, and then you can kind of understand where that decision making is. So
I think it's important there to note that if you're someone that doesn't have a lot of responsibility in your department, then you don't have that decision-making authority. So the way you increase your decision-making authority is to increase that responsibility that you have.
good point.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
The only thing I was going to add to that, when you look for those opportunities to ask those questions and gain that information, is that networking again.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I think what I was thinking before is some people might be thinking, okay, well, when am I going to have the opportunity to really ask these questions, especially if you're already working someplace and you're looking to go someplace new. And sometimes we may not be as apt to go to members of leadership or what have you. Sometimes that's a barrier. That can be another barrier.
It feels like one, at least. Yeah.
But in a networking event, most networkings I've been to, people talk freely, and people love to talk about what they do. And they love to talk about what they do. They love to talk about their business, so they're promoting themselves. So, I would use those opportunities to ask those questions, to learn more about those organizations, and maybe some of those secret opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, that goes into great to increasing your management skills. If you are assigned a project or you're looking at the ways that the company's moving in different directions, you can always consider organizing a brainstorming meeting about a current project. That'll give you great managerial skills just over that particular small project team or whatever. So.
Yeah, and again, there's that win-win. You're solving a problem that, probably needs to be resolved for the organization, and gives you a good in, makes you look good, does something great for the company. Bam, it's amazing.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy.
And taking on a more leadership role or a mentorship role doesn't necessarily have to be formal. Like, you don't need a title change in order to create a mentor relationship with your coworker.
Oh. Sometimes it can be just asking questions or having a cup of coffee and let's just talk.
That goes with my next note is speaking up, contributing in your meetings. It's as simple as that, really.
Yeah, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
All right, as you know now how to get all this great experience, now we want to keep track of our successes, and you can even put it on your resume. But the way to do that is you can even do a Word document or an Excel document of all your projects that you did in your current or previous years, along with those results. Provide specific explanations to each project during and after completion. Accomplishments to note might include saving time or money or both. That's what companies really want to know. So you want to really document that. Quantify as much as possible, things like increasing sales by 20% or you saved 50% on reporting time. All right, so let's say you have little experience. Let's talk about that. Ultimately, you want to embrace your reality. Apply for opportunities that match your level of required experience. Let's say you're applying for an entry-level position. Most people aren't expecting, or hiring managers aren't expecting you to come in with a resume filled with experience. So what you want to do is leverage that lack of experience as a motivation to learn. However, transitioning to a new position, don't discount your experiences. Think about ways that where your existing experience can support those new opportunities. Ensure that you're best representing yourself. It's very important to identify your skills. Make a list of your skills and look at the job postings that you're trying to obtain. Then play that matching game. Do my skills match up with those that are required? Pretty
Great
simple.
advice, yeah.
And don't forget to emphasize your soft skills. This skill set is entirely transferable, and frequently you can make it to stand out. You want to stand out above the rest. You want to show qualities like teamwork and professionalism, responsiveness, and follow-through. These skills can directly speak to how you fit into a company. Nowadays, company culture is huge. Know your own worth. You might not have years of experience right now, but what else in your background can demonstrate your worth to an employer? Experience, it doesn't have to come from traditional jobs. It's most important to convey other skills. It's more important to convey other skills and that you've developed in your life. And as I said before, volunteer. I know it's tough. We've got our kids, we've got school, we've got our job, we've got our kids' extracurricular activities. Now we're looking at volunteering. But if you take the time to go for opportunities relevant to what you're looking for, I guarantee it's not going to seem like work. It's going to seem like valuable, and you're going to help out as well. All right, for those with a lot of experience, there still can be challenges. The main idea is to stay current with your profession or the industry that you're looking to go into. You want to be in the know at all times. Do you know who's the person that, like say you want to go for project manager, do you know who that person is that is the top project manager? Do they have TED Talks? Are you following them on LinkedIn? You want to know who those people are. And you want to seek out new experiences. Get out of that comfort zone and stay relevant. Let's talk about your resume real quick. Keep in mind that many hiring managers and recruiters, they don't want to read that 4-page resume, the 3-page resume. Let's just stick to 2-page resumes. People who are reading your resume, they don't want to know 20 years experience. Let's keep it in the 10 years experience. Focus on what you've done in your background and that you've accomplished what the specific company is looking for. Your resume really needs to be tailored to each specific job that you're applying for. If you need more help with that, we're here to help you. The one main takeaway that I like to say is to stay knowledgeable in your field, continuously research companies and positions that you're looking for, and know the products that they're offering. All right, let's look at the job posting here. Here's a snapshot of a project manager, same as Raylene looked at. The section is on basic and additional qualifications. When you see sections like this, it means it's basic information the company wants. Experience is listed 8 times between these 2 sections. Pay special attention to this. When they list experience in the basic qualification section, this means you should be as close to what they're asking for as possible. If you cannot get to that, if you cannot get close, then you might want to be able to substitute other experiences. Check with us and we can always help you out with that. When you see a section like additional qualifications, this means they have this ideal candidate in mind, and so they add this section onto it, and just look at those qualifications as well, but also note that you may not qualify or you may not have those experiences, and they may be company processes or specific software.
So, and I didn't include this in my section because I just had the basic qualification section, but this job description also requires a certification. It says right there. Well, it doesn't require it, but that's what they desire. Their ideal candidate would have a project management professional certification.
Yeah. And some of those things like JIRA, you may not have. It might be company specific, or you might be able to get that within the company. So kind of look at these overall, see where you fall within it, and if you fall within most of these, I would go ahead and apply for it.
Absolutely.
All right, Jeremy, it's back to you.
Thanks. And, and what I was thinking as Doug was talking about the amount of experience that's needed, I think this all ties back to your 70-20-10 development plan. And close to the end of your handout, there's a little form here that you can use to devise this. And something I was thinking of myself is, and we've had this conversation, is sometimes when you see job descriptions like this and you see 8 years here, 5 years there, it's real easy to get dissuaded or get put off by not having that, or you think you don't have that. But when you think of it from this model, thinking about, okay, how can I develop those skills in the time that I have, you can develop that same amount of experience and put a time frame to it. So if you look at this model, and again, I'll just kind of recap, starting with your developmental goal. If I want that project manager job, really look at this job description. This is probably the best place to start, is to go on Indeed, go wherever you want to go to find that job and start building your plan from here and make that your goal, your long-term goal, and then start using this job description to start developing some of those short-term goals. So if my short-term goal is to get JIRA certified, put a plan in action. What do I need to find out about this certification? Who do I need to talk to get that certification? How long is it going to take me in order to get that certification? So, if you think it's going to take you 6 months to get certified, make that your goal. Mm-hmm. So in November of 2018 or whenever that was, my math's not that good, but whatever 6 months from now is, make that your deadline to get that certification done. And you can use that for all of these things listed here. So if you need more project management experience, make a plan of action to talk to your boss, build those activities, do those things to start filling in this form. Make sure you build your silos. As you can see on this form here, there are just many silos, and figure out ways to fill in those plans. And then ultimately, by the time you're ready to apply, so all your deadlines have been met, now you should be comfortably ready to apply for those project management jobs. And you just might be surprised that it may not be the 8 years or that 5 years. It might be 2 years.
Well, and I think the other important thing to recognize when you're looking at one of these job descriptions is that 8 years of experience doesn't mean that you have to have had the formal title of project manager for 8 years. So you need to demonstrate the experiences that you've held that contribute to, yes, I meet that qualification. And I think that's just a little bit of a different spin on, like Doug was talking about, knowing your worth. It doesn't have to be that exact title, that exact thing, but you have to show and showcase as you are branding yourself how you meet that experience level.
Mm-hmm. And to put that on a resume is where we come in. We can help you with that. Mm-hmm. But we are, that's why we're talking about this. And one thing to note, if I can kind of give a little bit of a reality check here, if you can't get close to this, so this might be a reality check for you that project management or manager might not be in the works right now. Maybe it's a project assistant, project coordinator, and then getting to that project manager. So this could be a reality check for you. It could not be.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Remember to, set that long-term goal and work your way back. So as Doug mentioned, regardless, I think pretty much most professions, most industries, there's some stair steps there.
Yeah.
So, it's like if your 10-year goal is to be VP of HR, you may start as a generalist or HR coordinator, moving into a manager or director or even talent development. There's a path there, and in just understanding that path, regardless of what the field might be, understanding that will put these into more perspective for you. Mm-hmm. But I think if you use this development plan, I think that's going to be very helpful with you. And as we mentioned earlier, our department, our entire team is here to help you if you have questions. And actually, we're going to open up the line right now to see if we have any questions from the group. While Karen's looking at our questions, I just want to remind everyone that this session has been recorded, and we will have that available to you over the next couple of days here. So that will be available for you via email. So just in case anyone was wondering. But while we're looking at questions, wanted to let everyone know, while we've got this pulled up here, to remind you that we do have a new program here at Grantham University, Career Launch, which is an interactive and comprehensive program that we've designed to help our students and alumni develop the skills needed for securing successful employment. And that's everything from what we've talked about today with goal direction and putting a plan together and implementing a plan, to the other elements, which includes writing effective resumes and cover letters, how to successfully interview for those jobs. Additional things we talk about: branding, negotiating, the associations, networking. There's a lot of great things included within that program, and we have a lot of support within that program because we just want to make sure that you have all the information as easily available as possible. And if you'd like to register, just email careerservices@grantham.edu, or you can call us directly and we'll get you set up. We've got new sessions that starts every month, so we'd be glad to have you.
Another great thing about Career Launch is you're still getting one-on-one with us. So that's what's great. It's in a classroom format, but it's still one-on-one with us.
Yeah. And similar to the work that you typically do here at Grantham University, it's very fluid. So it's not, there's no required times that you have to get things done. We want to make sure that it's as user-friendly as possible for you and that it fits into your schedule, because we know we're working adults, we're busy, and we are very flexible. So if there's a question of time, we work with your schedule. So yeah, so I think we're good on questions, but just a reminder, if you need any additional information, feel free to call us or email us directly. We'd be glad to talk to you. But I want to thank everyone on behalf of Doug, Raylene, and Karen. We thank you for joining us this afternoon, and we definitely look forward to seeing you again soon.
All right, thanks everyone. I'm going to go ahead and log off now.
See ya.
Bye.